polygon. So N meaning multi-sided, and we don't want this. So the computer wants to render all of our faces because it's the easiest for rendering it for games. It's going to take every face that we have, and it's going to triangulate it, and then it's going to calculate those 3 points in space, and then it's going to be able to either render it to the screen or render it in a game. And this makes it difficult, this n-gon. And we have more, so generally we want 4 sides. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we can fix this by selecting some of these verts and deleting them. Come in here and delete those verts. But that whole problem came about because we just deleted that edge by hitting the delete key. So what you want to do if you have an edge that you do want to delete, you want to go Edit Mesh and delete Edge Vertex. And if you do that, when we come into vertex mode, we can see that there are no verts outstanding there. So that's just a sort of a tip about if you're going to delete stuff. Now I want to delete this block thing here. In order to do that, I'm going to go to my face mode. I'm going to select all these, and then I'm just going to hit my delete key, and now they're gone. And we can actually see the inside of our apple here. Now there's a couple ways to fix this hole that we now have. One way is if you have a pretty straightforward hole like that and it's 4-sided, you can go to Edit Mesh. Actually want to double click this edge. I'm just going to select that hole for me. Then I can go to Edit Mesh. Under Mesh, and I'm going to click Fill Hole, and then it's filled. And that's fixed. The shading's a bit off now, but we're going to fix that next in a second. Another way to fix this, this is a really nice tool that I like to use. If you go to Edit Mesh, Append Polygon Tool. I'll left click that. Notice my cursor has changed because I have a new tool up right now. The way you want to use this tool is you want to left click one side and then left click another side. So I'm going to left click this side. We can see that it's showing me what other sides of this face I can select. I'm going to left click this side, and then I usually will hit Q, or you could hit Enter, and then that will create my face for me, and that hole is now fixed. The Append Polygon tool is more versatile. It works a little better in situations where you have a shape that's not just a hole that you want to fix or close up. So for instance, if we had, say, both of these gone, I could use the Append Polygon tool. Hit G just to reuse it, and then now both of those are fixed. Okay, so we definitely have some faceting, and that means we can see each one of these squares on this stem of this apple, and we can also see it here. We can see it down here a bit. We're seeing the wireframe. If I hit 4, we'll see the actual wireframe, but that wireframe is sort of, if I hit 5, I see shaded mode, 4 wireframe, 5 shaded mode. That's coming through, and we don't want that. So what we can do is with something called the normals, which talk about how the light is sort of getting played off of our faces. So if we go over here to normals, we can smooth those out by using soften edge. So if I click this, we can see the shading now just got smooth. for this apple. This is good. You don't necessarily want it in all situations. If you're trying to create something that is metal, like a robot or something, maybe you don't want to have smooth edges or some sort of mechanical arm, or maybe even in this situation, maybe we want to see the tip of that stem a little bit. I can select that edge by double clicking it, hit F to frame it. I can go to normals here, I can hit harden edge, and that'll then harden for us. If I do this for the whole thing, we can see it gets very faceted. Sometimes you see that in games too. That's sort of an art style sometimes, with rocks and things like that. It can be cool. But for this, for now, we'll just we'll soften it. And I'll select this edge and we'll harden that. So that's our apple, and then all that's left at that point is trying to make it look perhaps a little bit prettier. I should also mention we do want to clear our history out before we finish. So I want to make sure, before I clear the history, I want to make sure I have this selected in object mode. So if I right click and hold, I'm going to go to object mode, and then I just left click my object. If you're in one of the sub modes, the face mode, the vert mode, or the edge mode, it won't delete your history for you. So that's important to keep in mind. You have to be in object mode. Once you're in object mode, I'm going to go edit, delete by type, history, and that'll clear that for us. So I think I mentioned we would make perhaps some room stuff. So maybe we'll do a little bit. Let's see if I create a plane. And I'm going to use my channel box here. I'm going to use the J key there to rotate that. Here's another good tip. If I hold down X, you can see my cursor changing there. That will allow me to snap to the grid, which is really helpful because then I can just snap that to what is going to be my ground plane. So I could also just select that object as a whole, and I can just hold X and snap that. Hit E, I'm going to hold down J to rotate this 180. Hit W to move it. I'll hold down X to snap it. And there we go. Now we have that side wall. E to rotate. J to get the angle. W to move it. And then X to snap it. And now I have a little room really quickly. Let's maybe make a table fairly quickly. F will frame that for me. And let's use our edge loop tool. Drop in some edges here. And what I'm doing here is I'm going to create what will be the geometry which will allow me to make the legs for this. So I'm going to go to my face mode. I'm going to select these I'm shift left clicking to select these bottom faces. Then I'm going to use my Extrude Tool and hit W just to move it. I'm going to hold down X to snap it, and now I have a table that goes right to that ground plane. So let's just want to show. I'll show one more thing with the Extrude Tool. Let's start with a cylinder this time. Scale this up a little bit. This is a little bit denser than I need. For game stuff, I usually stick with 8 or 12 sides. And that is, I just find those are the easiest to work with. So I'm going to click this poly cylinder here, and I'll just bring this down to 12. So the important thing to check for is the silhouette, and usually that'll do it unless you have a giant object. So now that we have that, let's actually go into this view. I'm going to right click and hold and go to vertex. Now, I can't snap to the grid to put this directly onto this table, and I could potentially move these verts to try and accommodate that, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab these verts, hit W to move them. I'm going to hold down V as in Victor. I'm going to grab just my green arrow, and as I'm pulling down, I'm going to hover it over this top vert of the table, and that's going to put the bottom verts of what will be my vase right at the top of my table. So they are basically on the same horizontal line in 3D space. I'm going to put an edge loop in here. Go back to vertex mode, scale this in a bit. Scale that in. Scale this way in. And so, sometimes people have trouble with like making curves. If you ever want to make a curve in a situation like that, just put a couple edge loops in between, and that'll sort of just round that out for you. And we could do the same here. So if we put one in here and we made that a little jagged, just put an edge loop in there and round that. I kind of like how that is. Alright, so now we have sort of the base of our vase. Now we can't really go back now and put a cap on that, because if I do, it's going to get a little crazy with all the history that we have on top of that. So what we're going to do is select these faces on top. I'm going to shift left click, select them. I'm going to extrude. I'm going to go to my world mode, and again here I'm going to hit control, and I'm going to negate this vertical scale, because I don't want it to be universal. So I'm just going to negate it, and I'm just going to make basically a lip for this vase head, or the top of the vase. I'm going to hit G to redo my extrude again, and then I'm going to hit W to then move that. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start making the inside of this vase. So I'm going to hit G, W to move it down a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just sort of showing the concept here. So I'm extruding again and moving. G to extrude again. Hit R to scale that in. And let's do